Alright guys, we're actually starting off this video working with the quarter panels on the white, or the red Galaxie now. Gosh, I always get them confused. But so over here laid out, we have the 1 quarter panel, and then we actually jumped the gun. We got another one. So you saw us unbox it in previous videos, so we're actually going to install the new Auto Metal Direct quarter panel. This is the full quarter, and you can see I just mocked it up real quick. This gap's looking really good. We're starting to get that, you know, a little bit tighter. Finishing up the other wheelhouse. So, doing a good job. Fabricator in training. But yeah, you can see this thing fits awesome. You saw in the last video it did fit it. So this time we're actually gonna be getting all the gaps squared away, and hopefully by the end of this video we'll be welding it on. So that's kind of my goal, at least get 1 panel at a time. We got the deck panel and both quarters to do, and then this thing's done in terms of sheet metal. This one's way easier than the other car. I just want to take a moment real quick to thank Auto Metal Direct for working with me on this video. They're the reason this car is going together the way it is. And without them, I don't even know what would have happened to these 2 cars. One of them probably would have been totaled and cut up for parts. So do me a favor, go down the description of my video, click the link, and check out Auto Metal Direct. If you guys are looking for rust repair for your own vehicle, they have a massive selection of different panels for all different makes, and they make rust repair easy. So support the companies that support me. Thanks to Auto Metal Direct, and check out the link down in the description. I think it's awesome about this Auto Metal Direct panel. You guys can see the gaps. Like I got, once I get everything pushed in, it's like it's still kind of just sitting there. But once everything's pushed up and flush, I mean, this thing just lines up beautifully. I don't have to modify anything. It just lines up. And the only thing I'm curious about, which I've never seen anybody else do in terms of quarter panels, is like, how the hell do you weld behind here? Because there's like a whole section of welding that gets done back behind, like the C-pillar that comes down. It needs to be spot welded down there. I don't know how I'm gonna get a welding done in there. So that's kind of the biggest challenge for today, is figuring out how I'm actually gonna weld this thing. Alright, so we got everything pretty much cleaned up, degreased, wire wheeled up. So now what we're gonna do is, before I run some acetone across it and get it prepped for some rust converter or sealer, I'm gonna run through the bottom of this thing. And actually there's 0 holes in this lower trunk extension, which I was impressed about. There's a little bit of pitting right there, which I might throw some welds at. I just have to fix right here. So I'll just weld up all those holes. And I think there's like 1 or 2 little tiny ones right there. So this one's in good shape. I'll leave this one. We'll just, you know, weld up the holes, convert it, and then it'll be done. And then I got a little rust hole right here to do. The other thing, I'm going to note this real quick, because if I don't, I'll forget. If you're doing a quarter panel, so there is a series of spot welds right here, go all the way around. There's physically no way for you to weld them with a quarter on, so I have no clue. I think the inner wheelhouse and this in the assembly line went in after the quarter panels, so they were welded from the inside. There's no way for you to physically weld that. So if you do a quarter panel, give yourself 1/8 of an inch on this seam right here, and don't be an idiot and cut it out like I did. So what I'm going to have to do is clamp the whole quarter panel up and push the quarter panel up to this radius right here, and then stitch weld them together on the top side, and then shave that weld smooth completely so you can't see it. So it's gonna be really tricky. I'm not sure quite how I want to do it. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of all this crappy metal, and we'll get ready to seal it. Good. Perfect. Just try doing that with a 20.
I like the ones that are on the white side. Did you fix them? Oh, I mean, it's just keep on the bougie bitch and I'll
Alright, so I just wiped the whole car down with this, or just generic, any rubbing alcohol would work fine. This is a little bit stronger. Yeah, I gotta wear gloves, stuff will burn you pretty good. Got that whole thing wiped down, and we're gonna be putting some of this stuff on it. So you can use Rust-Oleum, you know, rust primer, PR. I've used PR15, but the problem with PR15 is when you put it on clean metal, it doesn't bite hard enough, so the problem you can run into is it'll chip. Any sort of chipping allows moisture to get into the rest of it, and then the whole thing's junk. So Rust-Oleum Rusty Metal primer works good. I don't like how it's orange, so I'm gonna be using this. It's like the same thing. This is actually like $1 cheaper, and it's a bigger can, so I was like, why not? I grabbed 2 of these. This should work fine. If I care enough, I have some really cheap, you know, this stuff's $1 at Home Depot, and you can just run a semi-gloss black over it. But you're never gonna see any of this stuff. This is underneath the quarter panel, so this is just preventative maintenance, I guess. I'm gonna use this on the whole inside of the quarter skin, make sure, you know, it neutralizes any rust, which this one does say it is a rust corrosion prevention. So it'll prevent future rust, which is really important rather than just covering it up. So this stuff should work perfectly fine. All right, so we got everything cleaned up. I went ahead and actually cleaned out all the junk that was in the in between the trunk pan and the quarter extension. The reason I did that, the actual like sealant that they put in here, it's 50 years old, first of all. Second of all, I don't want any reason for any moisture to be trapped. I went ahead and I welded the trunk extension to the outer wheelhouse. Not something you need to do. I just figured, you know, mentally it would probably be smart to eliminate this crevice right here if I could, because that's, you know, a spot where moisture can sink down and then rust outwards. Because if you've ever done sheet metal work before, you may have noticed that these things like to rust, you know, from the crack out, which is what I've noticed on the white car as well as this one. So I went ahead and took the time to go ahead and fill this with weld to where it doesn't allow moisture to sit in a crack. There's no crack to sit in, so no moisture should form there. So that's just mentally, I figured that would help. I don't see why it would be a problem, so I did it. So what I'm going to be doing here is throwing some of that primer over it and do a little bit of just fog and etch primer in most of this, and then throw the rust preventer primer over it. And then what I'll do when I'm done is I'll throw a new fresh piece of seam sealer on this crack right here, and probably along all these edges as well, because it wouldn't hurt. So Alright guys, we finally got everything on this all buttoned up. Got the rust fixed down here. There was a couple rust spots. I fixed those. It's got weld through primer on it. Every seam has weld through primer. I went ahead and I re-welded this guy right here because this broke. So it was kind of flopping around, and this is where the core support bolts to, or welds to, so I didn't want to make sure that that was splitting. Everything else has sealer primer on it. And then this is the upper brace that goes up by the door that holds the front part of the quarter in alignment. So that's securing right now with weld through primer on it. So we'll go ahead and we'll put that guy right here. That reminds me, I gotta throw some weld through primer right there. And that brace will line up right about here. The quarter panel will slip in between everything. We'll clamp it all up and we'll weld it. So this is taking me forever to get this panel fitted right. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw the panel on for hopefully the last time. Go ahead and drill a bunch of plug weld spots for it, hang everything, clamp it all up, put as many self tappers as I need to line the thing up, and finally weld this thing. All right, guys, where we sit right now, I'm actually pretty happy. I was kind of like, yesterday I was kind of sitting looking at this thing and I was like, man, I'm really like getting upset that I'm not making enough progress. But then I like keep in mind that I'm doing the whole thing basically by myself. I mean, had a couple people here and there help me move a couple things and fit a couple little panels here, but the bulk of it I've had to do myself, which kind of sucks. But I can't help but, you know, come out here today and be pretty motivated to get this thing done and on, and have this whole side basically ready to go. So the driver's side's good. You can see I worked on this gap. I strip everything to bare metal because I want to make sure, you know, it's not lying to me. Galaxies like to be, at least my Galaxies like to be full of body filler. So I will be 110% certain this thing is all metal before I weld it. All the way back, we've got this seam good. So what I'm pretty sure I touched on this already, but what we're gonna do is go ahead and weld this seam. Normally it's not, but I'm gonna weld this because normally it's just seam sealer, and in my own opinion it's gonna leak, and eventually this under part will rot out, which is what happened before. Plus I think if I can actually weld this up and shave it smooth and leave no contour at all, I think it'll look way better. The trunk lines up really good, as you can see all the way back. All these gaps look really good, which is sick. Over here I've got this panel just tossed on here. It's not fully fitted yet, but you can see it actually looks really good. The gaps up here aren't terrible. Up here, this one fits a lot better. So this side fits perfectly. I just can't get that side to lay flat, but you can see the gap around the trunk looks really good. Basically all the way down, it looks really good for sure. So I just got to get the panel to scoot up, so you can see there's a little gap right here I got to fix, but once that comes up, it'll all lay flat. Got to fix this door gap, and then other than that, we just got to weld this thing. So I'm super stoked with the progress. I couldn't be any more happy with it. Actually seeing it look like a car is super cool to me, because after these quarter panels and the rear part of the car is on, we basically then get to take the entire body off, machine some custom solid body mounts for this frame, and then we get to send it out, and we're doing a full roll cage in this car. It's gonna be freaking rad. So I'm gonna go ahead and spend some time fitting and getting all these panels mocked up and getting all the undercoat primer put on, come back when everything's ready to weld. Alright guys, so I've got to the state, so there's a lot of off-camera filming, fitting, little tiny patch panels that I didn't think were personally, important enough to film, but there was a lot of that going on in this car. In the back window channel, I'd put the upper deck panel on, and then I'd get ready to weld it, throw some self-tappers in it, and they go right through a piece of rusted metal. So I'd pull everything back off. So I probably have had these quarter panels and deck panel off 30 plus times, and that has nothing to do with the auto metal direct panels. They fit great. I can do nothing more than recommend those panels to you guys if you guys are looking for rust repair, because they fit amazing right outside of the box. Literally all you gotta do is throw them on, get them gapped right, throw some self-tappers or whatever you guys use to hold panels with clamps or whatever, and they're good to go. But my car, being a rusty piece of junk it is, I always have to take it back off, and I'm kind of a perfectionist in that sense, to where I was doing the outside structure of the roof as well as the inside structure of the roof. For the roof and the quarter panel meet, there was some rust, and there's two or three pieces of metal that come there and they're rotted. So I'd cut the top layer out, cut the inside layer out, make the inside layer, which nobody ever sees, and then the outside layer on top of that. So it's just mentally something that I wanted to do, that I wanted to know that this car is 100% rust free, and I didn't want to have anything come up 50 years from now that I was going to regret. So I want to do all of it now that I'm here. So finally now the panels are on for the last time. We're basically ready to weld. All I got to do is get the gaps, where I want them, throw some self-tappers in them, and they're ready to weld. So I don't really think I'm going to weld in this video, just because welding all of this takes a long time, and I do want to get a video out for you guys, because all of this tedious little work that has come up with the quarter panels, I keep having this install and this video pushed back further and further, which makes me upset, and it kind of pisses me off, because it's like I'm gonna get the quarter panels done this weekend, and it just keeps getting put off because there's more stuff on the car that keeps coming up. So I want to get a video out for you guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what we did on the car, run through it real quick, and then in the next video we're gonna weld all these things on. That I can promise you. Alright, so here's where we are now. It doesn't look much different from when like earlier in the video, but Door gaps are done. This whole panel is done. This upper deck panel, the only thing I gotta do is I gotta trim this outer edge off right here. And then it'll sit a little bit lower, but you can see the trunk gaps look great. All the way down, everything looks great. This one looks pretty good. The only thing I gotta do is I gotta tilt the quarter panel up a little bit to get rid of that low spot right there. And then I gotta move the quarter panel inward just a hair to fix this gap on this side. You can see upper deck panel fits great right here. Trunk gap looks good. I gotta push the quarter panel up a little higher to get this done, but so that's what I was talking about. So I did a patch panel here, patch panel over there, and then on the inside of the roof on that side, and then rain gutters, window gutters on both sides. So you can see the whole window channel right there has been cut out and remade. The little corner piece that's right there has been remade. Same on this side. This has all been remade inside here. So this is all new. And that was something that was, a problem with both cars, but now I fixed it. So the car is pretty much laser straight at this point. And I think I'm content with it enough to the point to where I'm like, okay, we're gonna weld it now. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. I'm gonna go ahead and edit this video up real quick for you guys, throw it up so you have something to watch for this Thursday. And I'm gonna get back to welding on this thing. So thank you guys a ton for watching today's video. Leave a like if you did enjoy it. It would really mean a lot to me. I put a ton of hours into this, even though this is a shorter video and you may not realize it. So thank you guys a ton for watching today's video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.